Welcome to episode 62 of the Trainer Scoop podcast. Today, I'm very happy to be joined by Ryan Dosa. I said that right, Ryan, right?
Yes.
Perfect. So,
Yes.
I will tell you how I know Ryan, and then we'll clean it up from there and let him introduce himself. But I know Ryan from Team Full ROM, which is where I've met a lot of my guests, all of my online friends. But to me, I know Ryan as a personal trainer. I mean, maybe a budding online coach, if I'm not incorrect, right?
Yes. Yeah, I do a little bit of online coaching.
There we go. And a competitive bodybuilder based out of California, California love, all the Tupac things. Ryan, say what's up to the people, bro.
What is up,
Did I miss
David
anything?
Martin fans? No, yeah, I'm 24 years old. I'll probably go back to school soon, get a master's in something. But yeah, just living out in Cali, loving the lifestyle. Yeah, natural bodybuilding. Am I right?
What was our discussion? It was like everything in life, or natural bodybuilding can be used as an analogy for everything in life. Did we talk about
Yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah, for real. Do you want to start with that?
I want to get into that for sure, but I kind of want to get a little bit of backstory. So,
Okay.
like, can you hit on how you got into this? What it looked like maybe from high school on?
Yeah, so I got into I started, so like I said, I'm 24 now. I got into bodybuilding when I was about 16, 17, following my high school football career. High school football didn't work out the way I planned. And so I needed something, football was a large part of my identity. I needed something else to latch onto, something to really just throw myself into, invest in. And naturally, bodybuilding found its way in. I started like a lot of us. I don't think I know I started on some bullshit, right? We're allowed to cuss on the
Oh
Training School
yeah,
podcast?
yeah,
Okay,
dude.
cool. Yeah, I started on some bullshit. Started on some bullshit, man. I thought that like shoot, and I thought sodium was like the be all end all of how you look. Like I think this whole thing started like I was like Googling like, oh, how to get like more defined muscles and like all that. And like the first article on Google was like, oh, if you want to look defined, you want to try, you got to cut out salt. So I'm like, bet. So for like 2 months, I like didn't eat any salt. I was like starving myself. I was running track at the time, and it's interesting because I ran track as a junior and as a senior, and I had like my PRs, my times. My times just got worse. Like the more as I went on, which isn't supposed to happen. You're supposed to get better. And so the coaches are scratching their head. They're like, "What the hell is going on?" And like, I don't know, like what's going on. And then meanwhile, I find out, yeah, I was starving myself the whole time, so my glycogen was always low. I wasn't eating any salt, so it's like no shit. But I learned my lesson. So yeah, that's how I got into it. And then slowly discovered evidence based. Got put on to Lane Norton. Eventually, the whole crew at RP, and the rest is history.
Yes, sir. Yeah, man. We all did some stupid shit back in the day. Mine was squatting every day and anabolic fasting. Did you ever hear about that combination?
Anabolic fasting. Those two, I mean, just right off the bat, anabolic and fasting. Yeah, of course, I've heard of those.
Yeah,
Yeah,
dude.
I think actually Lane Norton actually just dismantled that entire
Mm-hmm.
concept.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Good times. I'd be waking up at like 3 a.m. to go train at 4 a.m. Just fucking balls to the wall. It was like the best training, probably like up until recently, the best training I ever had. And then I wouldn't eat until noon. And I didn't eat carbs hardly, like very little carb diet. So shit. It's wild times, man. We've all been there. So tell me about undergrad. Where'd you go? What'd you do? Did you kind of like go through like a, I guess, science-based and logical training and diet approach there, or were you still kind of lost in the sauce back then?
Undergrad was interesting. I went to Occidental College, which is a small school in Los Angeles. Interestingly, it's one of the most liberal colleges in the country, behind I think UC Berkeley, which was interesting coming from my background because my high school was pretty conservative. I went to a private all boys school. Um, the political climate pretty conservative, and then so to go from that to that was a pretty big like culture shock for me. Um, and it ultimately I'm grateful I did because I learned a lot about myself and I kind of learned what I really thought. It's really interesting when you're kind of just surrounded by a group of people, you kind of just subconsciously adopt their beliefs and you go to the other side. And then so you really figure out what you really think at the end of the day. So
Oh yeah.
um, applying that to, yeah, applying that to kind of fitness, we talk about dogmatism and we talk about, tribalism, um, learning, going from both ends of the political landscape. I really came out with a very nuanced understanding. It's you know some beliefs being a little more conservative, some beliefs being a little more liberal, something in the middle, and applying that to fitness. So in fitness, you have low volume, you have high volume, you have bro, you have science, and it can be very easily, as to really latch on, science. This is the way to go. We're doing it right. Um, but at the end of the day, I think you really are shooting yourself in the foot if you do that. And you'll see that in your results. In terms of my training philosophy now, I pull from everyone, man. I pull from Dr. Mike. I'll pull from the low volume crew. I'll pull from, the bros at times. I'll pull from science. It's just this beautiful culmination of, everything. And at the end of the day, the result is the result. So,
Yeah.
um, I
I'm
don't,
glad. Sorry, go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say I did, yeah, in terms of the undergrad, that was kind of my experience there. And yeah, in terms of schooling, I really spent a lot of time to myself. High school I was pretty social. I went through those 4 years. It was in person, ended on Zoom. I graduated 2021, and yeah, I really spent a lot of time to myself. Really like working out, obviously, but really just kind of thinking about my values and how using sports as kind of a metaphor for something kind of greater, as narcissistic as that sounds.
No, I got you. I got you. Um, and I want to hit on this next question a little later. But is that where you got your interest in, like, I'm blanking on the correct term for it. But you seem to be very into, like, kind of like existential thinking, like philosophy, that type of deal.
Oh yeah.
That's where you
Oh
got it.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude. We'll hit on that later because I like hearing it and seeing it, even though it's like not something I do really, but it's just cool for me to hear because, like I said, it's not something I really do. Um,
For sure.
I'm also glad that you mentioned like you pull from a big variety of inspiration with your own training and the importance of not being dogmatic because, like, obviously you and I have both probably been dogmatic in our like training and nutrition approaches. It always ends up kicking you in the foot or kicking you in
Absolutely.
the ass, whatever, foot in the ass. Ooh, I don't know. Might have butchered that one, but
What, which, depending on your sexual orientation, could be a good thing. So again,
facts. Um, I think I even see some dogmatic thinking going down in Team Full ROM, which is something I'm like, all right, guys, let's fucking chill. But yeah, dude, I noticed like in your training, you were rocking some heavy dumbbells for some low volume. And then of course we've talked about like working around injury, doing like super high reps on like a leg extension because we can't do other things. But what has training looked like for you lately?
great question. So my training has I think I've had the most productive training I've ever had in the last 3 months.
Nice.
And again, I attribute that to just not being dogmatic. It's very easy, Dr. Mike's great. I love Dr. Mike. He's for sure top five most influential on my training. Um, but we have to remember Dr. Mike does have a different context than a lot of us, especially us naturals. If he were here, he would be like, it's the same training, natural enhanced, which I don't necessarily, it is the same principles. Um, that being said, when you are enhanced, you can get away with a lot more that you wouldn't be able to get away with when you're natural, just in terms of kind of, MEV to MRV,
Hmm.
just the nuances of training. For example, if you look at Alberto Nunez's training, that's the guy that he just knows himself so well.
Yeah.
He knows how he's going to respond. Like he's been doing it for so long. He knows if he adds a set, he knows exactly what's going to happen. He knows seemingly the best trade-offs between stimulus and injury risk, and that's evident in his training. And so taking the principles that we learn in Team Full ROM, biasing full range of motion, biasing, good technique, but then also applying this, kind of like in the trenches kind of dogfight mentality where, and this is maybe a little bit controversial, but okay, maybe at the end of the set, maybe you let your technique kind of go a little bit. Maybe there's some partials here and there. And that's actually what the evidence is showing us is that, partials, especially in that lengthened range, can be more promoting of hypertrophy compared to, just, strict technique all the way through. So I don't know. Feel free to disagree with any of that, but that's my current stance.
No, I'm kind of with you. And I think it comes in waves. Like up until recently myself, I was like pretty adherent and pretty bought into like the Team Full ROM, all those training principles, super controlled, slow eccentric, all that stuff, progressing your volume, yada yada yada. But then like I was just going back on some like John Meadows stuff and like how he would do like partials out of the lengthened and like he has some crazy intensity techniques, which like of course you got to use some nuance there. Once again, you can get away with a lot when you're enhanced. But also I just had a conversation with my training partner Alyssa. You'll probably see on Instagram and stuff. She was like,
Yeah.
sometimes I just want to like come in and like lift heavy and like, just like fuck some shit up. I was like, I feel that. Like, there's definitely a time and a place. So like, yeah, like today on leg press, we just like kind of like cranked out like 20 reps. And like my tempo was just not there. Like I was taking them deep, but not like super, like not like Trevor Fulbright deep. Um, and I was like
Yeah.
fucking smoked at the end. And I'm like, yeah, I don't feel like I was anywhere close to injuring myself. And we definitely ended that leg day off on like a really high note. So like, yeah, it's like you said, it's good to have a variety of approaches.
It's a fine line because what you just said, right? You showed up with your gym partner and you guys, she sometimes just feels like just going heavy. It's a fine line because that's a wave, right? That's a wave of motivation. You can channel it in the right direction. You can channel it to motivate you, but it can also go south. For example, if you're on week 2 and you've been doing barbell squats, and then you're on week 3, you show up week 3, you have 2 weeks of barbell squats, you have the progression, you're like, I just feel like doing leg press today, and there's no real good reason. Like you know, that's a little iffy because then you fuck up the
Mm-hmm.
progression, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you show up, you're like, you know what, the squats have been hurting my back, I'm my knees as well. The SFR is just shit. I get super tired. I get no pump. Okay, switch to a leg press. So that's the nuance that I'm talking about, right? You know, it's it's getting touchy feely a little bit. It's on one end of the here you have like follow the program, like whatever the fuck the program says. The program says this, I'm going to do this. And then on this end of the spectrum, you have just show up, do whatever the fuck you want. Somewhere in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
somewhere in the middle. Yeah.
Want to hear about the natural bodybuilding competition, dude? You just recently posted your judges' feedback, so I'm interested just to hear about that process. Um, a little bit more maybe about the motivation because it's one thing to like hit the gym, lift weights, be a personal trainer, as you've kind of like replaced that gap that football left in your life. But then you took it to the next level and hopped on stage. So like take me from the beginning to now because that's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, thanks for asking. So, natural bodying, I apply that same intensity and focus that I applied to football to natural bodybuilding. Obviously, it sucks because football, you could just decide one play, hey, I'm gonna go hard, and you could truck someone, you could score a touchdown. Natural bodybuilding, you show up at the gym, you're like, okay, I'm gonna go hard today. It's like you don't get shit, man. Like what you grew an extra, zero point 0.5 grams of muscle for going, so it really is at the end of the day, natural bodybuilding is like watching paint dry. And so that's something that I'm becoming increasingly, I haven't mastered it yet, but I've been becoming increasingly better at kind of accepting, no matter, how you could just show up and like try to kind of Rocky Balboa your way into gains a little bit, rush the process, which I guess I'll touch on a little bit. I think, I'm sorry, what was the original? Oh, how, like, what's natural bodybuilding been like?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, Yeah, I mean, I would the best analogy is just fucking watching paint dry. It's watching paint dry, but I would say you can rush the process a little bit. I'm talking about naturals, right? Enhance, obviously, yeah, jab yourself with testosterone, you'll blow the fuck up. But naturally, I think you can, if you're smart about it, if you have the right coach, if you have the right information, I think you can rush it to a degree. And by that I mean, maybe it takes, let's say most people take some 4 years to kind of get hit their genetic potential. If they do, 4 or 5 years, probably honestly closer to 10, like 8 years, give or take, to hit their genetic potential. I think if you're really smart about it, you have good people in your corner, you could maybe do it in like 3 years,
Hmm.
4 years, maybe. Um, but yeah, in relation to kind of like how it applies to the rest of life, it really is a whole experiment on delayed gratification. You're just putting in work, putting in work, putting in work, putting in work, and it's kind of exponential. You don't see shit, and then your physique just starts to look better, and then kind of the end game, like the 3D J guys talk about is like you just look in the mirror one day and you're just like, holy shit, what have I done? What have I built? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's here. The lessons that I learned in natural body, huge, huge, and transferring over to the rest of into relationships.
It takes a lot of like courage and like I guess motivation to want to take that step from like just being like a trainer, someone who's passionate about hitting the gym, to then like standing up on stage. So what made you want to do that? Were you like a fan of bodybuilding? Was it just something you wanted to check off the body or check off the bucket list that you fell in love with?
Vanity.
Gotcha. Yeah.
No, I'm
Um,
just kidding. No, no. No, like I make fun, I joke about it. It's, yeah, vanity, but I mean, I think for most of us, it starts out as this kind of superficial thing. You want to look better, you want to get chicks, you want respect from dudes, and that's still there. Like, I'm not, that's still a piece of the puzzle, but over time, like that's what gets us into it, I think. But then over time, it evolves into something a little bit more kind of deep. Um, and yeah, in terms of, like, I'll just say, like, I'm super proud of myself for going on stage. Just something I would have, 5 years ago, 6 years, I would have been shaking. Like, I would have been just scared and like, oh my God, they're judging me, and do I have enough muscle? But and especially with COVID, I was able to kind of cultivate the kind of mindset of, I like to call it the just do it mindset, which is just do it, whatever it is. Writing that Instagram post, posting that Instagram post, stepping on stage, posting your physique, just do it. And over time, you get more comfortable with it, and then you get to the point where I'm sure you've kind of arrived at this point where it doesn't take a lot. You're not nerd. You can just post on Instagram, and you're not like worried about like, oh, what are they gonna think? Like, what, you know? Um,
yeah. Yeah, dude, that's like I feel like honestly what you did is like the ultimate, maybe not the ultimate, but like a big culmination of that because I know exactly how you feel. Like I remember years ago when I first started like doing a fitness account, it's like, oh, like shit, what are people gonna think? Like people might say from your hometown, like, dude, this is kind of fucking stupid. Why are you doing this? And then like you're literally up there in like these tiny ass posing trunks, just
yeah,
flexing. So that's a cool like accomplishment, I guess, in itself. And like that just do it mindset is like, yeah, that's what it is. So I got you, dude. But
yeah. So, do you have
how
any plans to compete?
yeah, I do want to do a show. When I dieted down ending last fall, I was just like, fuck man, I'm small. So I'm just taking some time. Um and
Oh.
I know that's like probably not the right approach to it, right? Because like I did a powerlifting meet and
No, I'm saying I don't think you're small, man. You
oh
have you have
yeah,
some good size on you. Like your abs, yeah, I think your abs really poke out at me when I see your physique. You have
yeah,
that definition. Yeah, I think you could kill a show.
yeah,
Um,
right,
Depending on who shows up, it's always down to
yeah,
who shows up, right? But
yeah.
in my case, I was the only fucking junior, 20 to 23 year olds. Like, I'll take
Hmm.
it, but yeah,
Yeah,
no, I think you could rock a show for sure.
yeah. I'm nervous about the legs just because like just genetically it's not a great one and it's hard to do. But I've been training my ass off, man. So hopefully we're gonna put some legs together by 2024.
Yes, sir.
So I'm thinking back. I did read over your judges' feedback. I do believe like some things within that were like right on point, and then other things, they said you could use a little bit of work. So do you want to talk about like get into the nitty gritty a little bit and discuss, what are some of your weaknesses, what are some of your strengths, and how you plan to bring those weaknesses up in bodybuilding?
Yeah, so for sure my legs. The first thing, if you look at my stage shot, you're gonna see, legs. Um, that's something that I've been working on. It's been coming up, like right now I'm kind of poking on my legs a little bit right now, and like I'm really happy with the way they've been coming along. I've been applying, you know, close, full range of motion, at the very least 80% range of motion and tension. The biggest thing for me, in the past I do kind of a lot of metabolites for my legs unknowingly. I thought I was doing tension, but I was really, these sets of, 8, 10, 15, and I was going really slow, really milking the eccentric, really milking the pause. And now that, okay, and you saw this with the dumbbell press, right? Like I only did 4 reps, like really drop the reps, but still, that's quality, 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 and just getting that just raw tension has really been working really well for all my body parts.
Nice.
And so I'm really excited to, yeah, come back onto the stage in probably 2025. So about 2 years with just bigger everything, but especially like they said, legs, glutes, um, just bigger everywhere.
Hmm. And so I feel like this thing happens quite often on your first show, but they mentioned like your conditioning was it off, or was it like what did they say? It was something.
Oh yeah. So yeah, the conditioning, yeah, I was happy with like how lean I got. Again, I was happy with my level of leanness. My
Hmm.
muscularity I could have definitely had more size. The thing with that, so this is crazy, but anyone who's planning on competing, I'm sure will get value from this. Pump up earlier than you think, right? Because that's what fucked me up. I thought like, okay, I'm gonna go on stage at like 3 p.m. Okay, I'll start pumping up at like 2-ish. That'll give me plenty of time, right? Start pumping up at 2, literally into like my 10th push-up, right? Let's go, you're on stage. Like, fuck. So
Oh,
it's like, yeah, I didn't get to pump up. So you go on stage, they have me
that's
like
tough.
backstage, and then they're like, all right, you're going on I'm not complaining about it, but it's a learning experience. But yeah, like they're like, all right, you got like 30 seconds. So within 30 seconds, my guy, I did like 30 like squats, like 100 push-ups, and then they're like, go. So then I go on stage, I'm like out of breath. I'm like, fuck. I'm like,
That's awesome.
so yeah, like long story short, I did not get to pump up at all. So like I got on stage basically flat as a pancake. Um, but I just took it in stride, it's like, hey, no complaining. It's all
Yeah.
right, I'm so yeah, that would be my tip for anyone. Pump up earlier because it's a lot easier. You're like I would rather try have to hold a pump, like okay, it's gonna be in 15. Let's just try to hold it versus if you don't pump up in time, you're fucked.
Hmm.
You're no matter what you do. So definitely next time I compete, I'll like be like, okay, for sure pump up early. And then at the very worst, you just have to hold it. That's a lot easier.
Yeah. Dude, that's tough because I think it's something that happens in bodybuilding to the highest level. Like the schedule and the time, even at the Olympia, they had issues.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Oh, no way.
yeah, man, like it was way later than they thought. So like people were pumping up, and it was hard to hold the pump at that. Like I think they didn't go on until like, dude, I was tired of shit. I was out there in Las Vegas, so it was already 3 hours later for me. And then it was like it started at like 9:45, the men's open, and it didn't
Yeah.
get done until like midnight. And I was like thinking that's like 3 o'clock on Eastern time. But like, yeah, it's just I guess that's a good, really good practical takeaway for people looking to compete, because like you never know. So
Yeah.
that's good stuff, dude. Um, I want to talk about your diet like then and even now, from what I've noticed. I think we briefly hit on this. I didn't even mention this, but I was a guest on Ryan's podcast. So go check out Ryan's podcast. Plug that real quick, dude.
Yeah. So I have a podcast. It's called you could search my YouTube username is Dosa Training Systems. You could also probably just search, David Martin, Ryan Dosa. It'll pop right up, and yeah, you could check that out. I basically did the same interview that you're listening to now with David, and gave some really cool insight.
Yeah. Yeah. So appreciate you for having me on there. Now we're flipping it around. But yeah, dude, I want to hear about your diet, because it was like something that we briefly touched on, but I was like, what the fuck? Like, what is going on here? So
Yeah.
explain that to me.
Which is fair. Yeah, I'll say right off the bat, that's a very fair response. Again, yeah, what like okay, different strokes for different folks, right? You have these principles: progressive overload, caloric deficit, surplus, quality, mechanical tension. Within these principles, based on differences in psychology, even childhood, right? Say, for example, say something happened to you in childhood. Say you grew up, you were super weak, you were super skinny, you were always getting picked on for being weak. Um, and then, 5 years, 10 years down the line, you get really into lifting. And you have that psychology, that demon, if you will, in you of, I need to be fucking strong. I need to push weight. I'm probably gonna, as a coach, I'm probably gonna cater that person's training more towards like heavy, barbell, those kinds of movements. Likewise, you have a female or a male, it doesn't have to be a female, but you have someone, maybe they're in their 40s, they have a family, they're pretty chill, pretty easygoing, they don't have necessarily that trauma. Um, they maybe don't like to push themselves that hard, which is fine. Um, I'm probably going to have that person on, more machines. I'm going to have them doing higher, more frequency. So that's what I mean by different strokes for different folks. As that relates to nutrition, I think that's even more salient in nutrition. Your psychological responses to food. Some people, I think, for the pleasure response, the serotonin and the dopamine, the response that some people get from eating a cheeseburger may only be like that, whereas other people might get that, right? Calories equated. So while the calories, person A, person B might both eat 3,000 calories, the mentality towards the relationship with the food could be completely different. So as that relates to my diet, I've just personally found I'm happier, I feel better, I have better digestion, better adherence, more productive when I just eat the same foods every day. Um, Now, do I enjoy it? Yeah, I enjoy it. It's not like it's not like a religious experience every time I eat. It's kind of like somewhere between. It'd be like eating something bland and then like the best food you could ever think of. It's like somewhere in the middle, but a little bit more towards bland. And for me, that's psychologically the best approach where I can keep things kind of objective. Like, okay, I need to eat 4,000 calories a day. I'm eating 4,000. I need to eat 1,000 calories a day because I did have to go down to like a 1,200 at some points on my cut. I need to eat that. And yeah, obviously I did. So when I'm on like 1,200 calories, I'm not adding honey to the meals. I'm not doing white rice, which you talked about before, how calorically dense the white rice can be. I'm doing veggies. I'm doing frozen fruit. I'm not thawing, so I'm getting frozen strawberries. I'm not thawing. I'm literally eating them while they're still frozen. When I'm on 4,000 calories a day, you bet, right? White rice, honey. I'm eating the frozen fruits, but I'm thawing them. Yeah.
Got you. So in terms of like now you're in this hypocaloric state, and it seems like you're still eating like
Hyper.
yeah, excuse me, hypercaloric state.
Yeah.
And it seems like, I mean, just from maybe a story that I saw, which like of course you can't always just condense one aspect of one story and extrapolate that to be the whole case. But
Of
are you still
course. Yeah.
eating like pretty clean and pretty, strict, I guess you could say, even though there's connotations around that word, we'll call it strict.
I still am, yeah. So real quick, the way I remember that, like hypo, because I always like hyper is like when you're in a court, you're hyper, you want to move, like
Mm-hmm.
so that's hyper, and
Got
then
that
hypo
energy.
is, but yeah, that's how I remember it. Because but you're right, yeah, I am still eating pretty like the same food, same foods, like the protein source is the same, so I'm still eating pretty clean, and again, that just comes down to digestion, relationship with food. I did if it fits your macros for a long time. I did that throughout college for like almost 4 years. I did if it fits your macros, and it just fucked me psychologically. Not right away. Like I was chill for the first few months, was chill. After like 6 months, a year, I kid you not, David, like a fourth of my thoughts, half of my thoughts, even throughout the day, were about food. About
Mm,
what am I gonna eat for the next meal? Should I have cinnamon toast crunch, or should I have like like Reese's Pieces, like which one's gonna like be more pleasurable? It's like, and I'm just, it's like, what the and like
Okay.
after I'm like, this isn't healthy, this isn't normal. So
Yeah.
now it's just
Yeah.
the same fucking thing every day. Okay, post workout, it's we're having white rice, we're having honey. It's the same thing. I enjoy it, but I'm not upset. I'm free to think about other things. And
Hmm.
so again, different strokes for different folks. Try. I'm not shitting on if you figure. I think everyone should try it. But that's just kind of what I've arrived at this point in time.
Yeah, that's really cool, dude. Because it's something I've always wondered from seeing your nutrition. I'm like, huh, I wonder why he does that. And yeah, dude, I mean, obsessing over that is no way to live. Like that would get really old, I'm sure. Like consume your thoughts and detract from other more productive pursuits. So that's cool, dude. I'm glad you explained that. Maybe somebody else could take that away too, because you know, as good and as balanced that, I if it fits your macros can be, it can definitely lead to that for like for certain people with certain mentalities or certain approaches. So that's a really good caveat, dude. Do you think you're going to stick with that for the foreseeable future, or do you ever plan to like integrate other stuff and try the flexible approach again?
I'll probably roll with it for the rest of
Hmm.
my life. And the
Damn.
reason I say that, yeah, the reason I say there's also digestion considerations. I have a esophageal disease kind of thing
Okay.
where I'm allergic to like wheat, soy, tomatoes, dairy. So like the lifestyle kind of chose me. I didn't choose the lifestyle in a way.
Hmm.
So yeah, no, I'll probably like, to be honest, I'm probably on this for the rest of my life. And because yeah, even now when I do, like when I go off the, I have like some ice cream, I pay for it. Like the next day, it's like
Mm.
fuck, like I'm
Damn.
like choking to death. I can barely move. So, yeah, I would recommend, try it. Do if it fits your macros for a year, a week, a day, and then like do the like try it. There's different phases in this journey. And yeah, and then digestion, man, like your training when you eat the same thing every day, your gut is your digestion is just on predictable, on point. You never have. That's another thing with IFIM. When I'm eating different things, different pre-workout meals, like okay, like pancakes one day, like bread. That I can't predict the digestion. Sometimes I show up to the gym, I feel great. Other days it's like, oh, I have a food baby. There's that
Hmm.
I cannot do that. Like I've had the best performance when my digestion is just consistent as a motherfucker
Hmm.
and it's predictable and yeah, and I'm not showing, I show up to the gym and I have nothing in my stomach, I'm good to go. So
Hmm. Yeah, two questions before we take our little break. My first one that just came to mind is how I guess I've never really had like many like digestion issues, but you hear it all the time, especially, within bodybuilding, you hear that all the time. So how does that kind of present itself for you? Because I know like when people are slamming a ton of calories, obviously digestion can be tough, but there's way more to it. So you mentioned like a food baby. Is there anything else that comes to mind when it comes to dealing with digestion?
first thing I'm going to say, everyone is different. The second thing I'm going to say, no matter who you are, no matter if you're Asian, white, because there's like ethnic differences.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Asians tolerate higher carb approaches a little bit better and not so much high fat.
Mm-hmm.
We saw that with Charlie Young. But regardless of where you come from, who you are, fat is going to always slow digestion, right? So I don't recommend a lot of fat pre-workout. Carbs, especially high GI carbs, are just going to go right through you, right? So stuff like cereal, honey. This is why you see, really big guys that are on like a lot of calories eating, sugary. It just goes through you quicker.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's one aspect that I think is really overlooked that I see almost no one talking about is blood sugar control. So again, with my training, and this is anecdotal, um, I just get the best overall performance recovery feel when I just get a massive insulin spike post workout, massive blood sugar. So so meal one, like 8 a.m., I'll just have a little bit of tuna, a little bit of chicken, super lean, like super low fat, and just a little bit of honey. Like barely, literally just like that much food. I'll let that sit for like 4 or 5 hours. Then I'll train. So I'm training, I'm empty. Like there's barely anything at all in my stomach. Train, my blood sugar gets super low when I train, which I don't mind it at all. Some people like to have the intra workout. I could be starving and I'll still train. It doesn't because I'm so focused on training. The second I finish that last set, it's time to eat, right? Like I'm not rushing, like I'm not rushing to the car, but like within like 30 minutes to an hour after I finish it, like I'm looking to eat, go home, and then for, I kid you not, the next hour to 2 hours, I'm just slamming, I'm just eating. Like I'm just
Mhm.
enjoying it. There's not a problem in the world, strawberries, high carb. And then for like, I eat all that, I get this food baby on purpose, and I'm just chill, right? I'm just like all the cortisol falls off from the train. I'm just like chill. And then it takes me like half an hour before I feel like an athlete, like a person again. But it's super cool because it's kind of like getting high, kind of smoking weed a little bit, not as strong, but it just drops the cortisol. And then, if I'm masking, I'll even do that again. So then I go back to, I work. Um, and then I see 1 minute left, but yeah, I'll do that again. Like, for my last meal, I'll just eat a ton of food and I just veg the fuck out. And it really helps me with recovery compared to having those carbs pre-workout.
Guys, thank you so much for checking out this episode of the podcast. I wanted to interrupt the episode to give a quick promotion for myself, and that is my discount code with Raw Supplements. If you use this code right here below, DMartin070, you're going to get 10% off of your purchase. And I'm a big fan of Raw Supplements. They have great tasting whey isolates, and a lot of their products take this Christopher's Secret Stuff pre-workout are dosed with very good ingredient labels at levels that the studies recommend. I'll always say it, guys. Supplements aren't going to make or break you, but they can give you that little edge if you have the money to invest in it. So why not save some of that hard-earned money? Use my code, help your boy out, and get 10% off with the code below. Let's get back to the episode. Yeah, dude, I think that was really well explained. I got one more nutrition question before we move on to the next portion and then wrap it up and get you back to the clients. But if I'm not mistaken, you have a girlfriend, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how does like the nutrition approach fit in with the relationship? Is it ever tough? Is it something that's a work in progress? Has it pretty much been a well-established thing?
Oh, it's horrendous. We're on the verge of breaking up. She can't,
She
just the
wants to
smell of
leave me.
chicken. She wants to, the smell of chicken is, she's just, it's on my clothes. And yeah, it was great while it lasted, but
But bodybuilding wins this one. I hope she sees that just like, what the fuck, Ryan?
she will. No, no, low key though. Honestly, that was actually something we bonded about before we started dating. So literally, like we met each other, and I think like the third question, or no, she was into working out. We met at the gym. Actually, she worked at the reception desk at the gym that I work at, and
Same.
yeah, yeah,
Bro, literally same. That's
um,
funny.
yeah, that's really cool. Oh, you have a girlfriend?
This will be the first official place that I say yes, but yes.
Oh shit, good shit, man.
Yeah, the girl that I
Oh,
train with. Yeah.
nice. Awesome, man. I'm giving you
Yeah.
a virtual fist bump, but no, that's really cool. But yeah, anyways, like it came up like in like one of our first conversations. She asked me, she's like, "Oh, what do you?" I'm like, "Oh, natural bodybuilding." And she's like, "Oh, my uncle's a bodybuilder." I'm like, "No shit." And so she showed me pictures. He does enhanced, big motherfucker, huge, 250 ripped, enhanced. But yeah, he competes, and so I'm like, and he lives the lifestyle, right? He does the meal plans, and so I'm like, bet. So she's already with all that shit. Like she knows, she's very close with her uncle. She knows what's up. And yeah, no, for real though, it's been great. Like we're both very supportive of each other. In terms of like the eating, it doesn't. I'm very blessed that it doesn't bother her that much. We kind of joke about it. So yeah, I really do. Like we'll go out to eat, and I'll just bring my food, and it's totally cool. As long as I'm present there with her, as long as I'm present, asking her questions, we're having like an intimate conversation. It really doesn't seem to matter what I'm actually eating. Again, as long as I'm present there with her.
Mhm.
And yeah, she's in onto it. Like she'll see me like eating the stuff, and like, at first she's like, "Oh, that's disgusting." And then like a month later, she's like, "Let me try that." And like she tries it, and 9 times out of 10, she likes it. So yeah, it's really cool.
Hell yeah, dude. That's awesome, man. I mean, it's tough. Like I've been on both sides of that. Like right now, she's with it, she understands. It makes life a lot easier. I'm not saying that it can't be a productive relationship if you guys are on two different sides of the spectrum, but I've been there, and it's just a tough point. So I'm glad to hear that it works out well for you, man. My next question, something that we briefly hit on your podcast, is after you mentioned that after you graduated, you got an opportunity to work a pretty lucrative job. I think it was like selling supplements, right? Something like that. Supplements.
It's a personal trainer, but you're basically making 90% of your money by selling supplements. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're pimping supplements.
Right, right, right. And I mean, like I said, like good salary. Seemed like you'd have probably been pretty well set up, but you decided to actually not go down that route because it didn't really fit in with your moral compass. So tell me about it, man. I want to hear some of the thought process that went in with that decision, and then kind of how that transitions into what you're doing now.
I think anytime you have an incentive for business and an incentive to be a good person, there's always going to be a trade-off there. I think that business can be a very good, um, can factor into kind of morality. For example, a lot of people will talk about that the morality in capitalism is fundamentally built in, right? Um, if you're paying me for a service and I'm not holding in my end up of the bargain, you no longer have any responsibility to pay me. It's built in, right? So in that sense, totally cool. But yeah, just in terms of like the supplement industry and for like on a real note, I think at the end of the day, like all we really have is truth. Like as a species, as people, all the shit's cool, like bodybuilding and this kind of stuff. But like at the end of like really the only thing that keeps us, this is potentially depressing, but like one of the things that I think keeps us from going extinct is truth, right? As a species, as knowing, hey, when we lived in tribes, hey, if I go around that mountain, what is there a pack of wolves behind there? Is there like a tree that we could find fruit? And so telling each other the truth, like what actually is. And so relating that to kind of bodybuilding, the supplement industry, oh, if you take this supplement, you'll blow up. Like, yeah, it can seem like harmless, like, oh, who's really, you could make the argument that, oh, if someone's dumb enough to, buy that supplement in the first place, they deserve to lose their money. And I've definitely been there. That's, when I was 17, some guy conned me like hundreds of dollars. He's like, yeah, you're gonna take this supplement, you're gonna like, all this bullshit. And I'm eating that shit up, like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then it's just like fuck. So there are lessons to be learned, and there is some truth to that idea. Like if you are dumb enough, but at the end of the day, man, for me personally, I wouldn't want to jeopardize kind of my values in that sense. And I think we talked about it last time. It pays off in the end. Like both of us, right, could go on social media, with our physiques and our kind of like knowledge and be like, start pimping bullshit, and we could make hundreds of bucks, thousands of bucks. But that's gonna fit, and then if it attached to your name, right, David Martin is gonna be, con man, lot, all that, and then where can you go from there? Versus if you take the slow approach, okay, you actually put out good shit, right? You tell the truth. Yeah, you're not, making that much, but when you're in your later 20s, your 30s, your 40s, if you stay consistent with it, you'll have a name in the industry. And so just like natural bodybuilding, right? Delayed gratification. And yeah, I'm increasingly humbled by it because I see now that, you know, all that bullshit that I just said, we need to survive, right? And some people are, I was very fortunate and blessed. My parents, we're not rich, but, we're well off. Like we can withstand, I was able to kind of fuck around in my early 20s and oh, what do we really think about this? Other people don't have that luxury. Other people, this day they turn 18, they have to survive and they have to make money. So I'm increasingly humbled by that insight. And, you do, in a sense, have to do what you got to do. But um, there's also this idea of truth. So I don't know how you feel free to add anything to that.
Dude, I've never thought of the truth aspect, but yeah, like that's really what it comes down to. I mean, and yeah, for long-term success to be there, it's got to be very, very high up in your priorities, is whether it's like providing a good service or backing something that you believe in. um Yeah, dude, I agree. That's a good way to put it too. I've never thought of that, but um tell me about like your experiences personal training so far. Like, is it something that you think you'll stick to? I mean, you don't have to like say you'll quit your job or you hate it, but
Oh,
like,
I'm quitting later today.
yeah, fuck that. I'm going to my
I'm
manager.
literally
Fuck my manager. I'm out.
no.
Fuck all my clients.
No, no, personal training is great, man. I love it. I love, meeting people in person. It's really cool, different backgrounds too. I love learning about people. This person is kind of driven. One of the most interesting things to me is, people will come to, I'm sure you've experienced this before. Like they come to you and you're like, okay, so, what are your goals? And they're like, oh, like I want to, I want to strengthen my core.
Classic.
And like, and you're like okay, like we like you want to strengthen your core. You're like, why do you want to strengthen your core? You're like, oh, like I just, and like they want to have abs. That, like, just say it, just say you want to have abs, for the love of God. Like,
That's
you don't have
funny.
to. And the same thing too, like, oh, I just want to be stronger. It's like, no, you want to look better naked, just like. But it's totally cool. I don't, it's just funny to me. You kind of see, yeah, they'll come, they'll be like, oh, I want to get stronger, and like 99%, sometimes they do, sometimes like they want to be able to lift stuff, but let's just be fucking honest, most of us want to look better naked. Most of us want to have more, more confidence, go on a journey. So
Hmm.
um but
Yeah, dude. And you're training at like a LA Fitness, right?
yeah.
Nice. So what's the like client acquisition process? Are you like out there on the gym floor? Do you get like new member orientations or how does that look like for you?
I'm grinding, bro. I'm grinding
Fucking
24/7,
grind.
picking up
It's a
that
war.
phone. It's a bro. Every day is a war. I'm just like grateful to God, blessed,
All
100
my
emojis.
coworkers are my mortal
Oh my,
enemies.
oh yeah. If you're not with me, you're my enemy, kind of thing. Um,
You pull out the Star Wars right there. Oh.
yeah, sir. No, for real. One of the cool things, so trade-offs, right? LA Fitness is cool. If you want to be a personal trainer, they will literally just feed you the clients. You show up, you have, in theory, you could do jack shit to acquire it, though they just feed you the clients. So that was really cool for me getting started, because I don't like the whole business thing, like poking your chest up, like, oh, I can do this for you. I'd rather let my results speak for themselves. So yeah, LA Fitness fed me just a ton of clients, just like 30 clients. So that was really cool. But the trade-off is you don't make it, man, they're taking like 70% of that, right? So the clients pay for like a 25-minute session, the clients are paying anywhere from 45 to $60 for 25 minutes. And of that, you're getting, depending on how promoted you are, you're getting like $7 to $15 of that. So that's the trade-off. I could make a lot more. These other gyms, kind of, you're responsible. They're not going to do shit to feed you the clients. You have to do it, but in turn, you get more of the
Yeah.
more of the coin, so to speak. So yeah, it's a trade-off.
Yeah. And you have a client, what'd you say? 115?
Yeah.
Got you. So we'll get you out of here soon. Back to the grind. But yeah, dude, that is not the I mean, it's not the worst setup. Like, that's something that I struggled with a lot, and I've been on both sides of it now. So like when I started out I was 22, started out at like kind of like a not corporate or what's it, Globo gym, not a Globo gym, but definitely like established, had a business backing. So we would like not really get fed clients, but you get new member orientations and you could like get them that way, or you could just get people off the floor. You got like 50-50 split. So it wasn't too bad. But man, it's tough to get start. Like those first couple checks are so low and it's tough.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips and advice for up and coming personal trainers?
I would honestly get into it. I mean, I'll just be 100% straight off. It's not necessarily, you're not going to be, unless you're training, celebrities, and like really, like some people will have a market for that. They just train like, wealthy CEOs, business owners. You're not going to break the bank doing it. You have to, I would do it more for the experience, right? Like the experience in terms of relating to people, you change as a person, right? Like if you're just behind a computer screen most of the day and you're like learning, like, okay, progressive overload and this and that, versus you have to actually apply that and help. Oh man, it changes your brain. It changes you as a
Yeah.
person, your ability. Yeah. So do it for the experience. You do that in your early 20s, even your 30s, you can apply that to other areas. Um, yeah, in terms of the money, like, yeah, you can make money. Like, it's a really cool side hustle. If you want to make it like your thing, again, we all have different talents, different. There's something to be said about niches, right? People talk about, if you find a niche, if you like oh, I help 60-year-olds with back pain. Yeah, you're gonna get a lot. If you can really market to them, they're really something about a niche. But yeah, do it for the experience. Not so much the money. It's really cool. This idea that I'm playing with is actually not combining your passion with your business, having a source of income that's completely logical. Like, you don't hate it, you don't like it, just pays the bills, and then allowing that to fund your passions. And
Yeah.
so yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah, dude. That's a good way to approach it, I think. Um, it's tough to make a living out of it if you have like a lot of responsibilities. Do you know Shimmy? He does the podcast with like
Yeah.
Trevor and Dylan. So he put it to me like a very way that I never thought of it was like doing personal training, like you said, in your early 20s, it gives you so many skills that then you can like laterally shift over. Like you can talk to people, you can think on the fly, you have a little bit of sales. There's a lot that goes into it. Like you have a good understanding of health, biomechanics to some degree, all that stuff. Like it really does set you up to do other things well and to kind of move well throughout the rest of your life. So it's a good point in itself to add on to your points, dude. But shoot, man, I know you got a client coming up. Want to give you a time to potentially, if you have to take a shit beforehand, get a meal in, or just go down and get ready. But yeah, dude, do you have any other parting notes or thoughts you'd like to leave the people with?
No, I think this was really cool. On a personal note, I'd like to know super quick, like how your training's going.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it's been pretty solid. Um, One interesting thing that's been happening to me lately, and I haven't quite nailed this down. I've been rereading the hypertrophy book, talking to some people, is like my volume requirements have been pretty low lately, and I'm just getting stupid pumps, like training's feeling good. I'm still kind of working through a hip injury. So I have to be smart with like exercise selection and the way I execute certain movements for legs. But I feel like, growth has been pretty solid. Um, yeah, on that hypercaloric diet, that's definitely driving progress and feeling good, man. Like I have a lot of fun training at the gym that I'm at with Alyssa. Like we train well together. So overall, I say it's like 9.5 out of 10.
Awesome,
Trying to get some
awesome.
size, man. Just trying to get some size on this natural bodybuilding progression.
Yes, sir, man. Watch that paint dry.
Right? For real,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
Do you have anything you want to plug? Tell the people where they can find you and follow you, all that good stuff.
I'm on Pornhub. Follow my porn account at Ryan Dosa.
I'm gonna look
Um,
you up now. And then maybe
but
I'll stick
yeah,
around for other purposes.
oh yeah. Winky wink. But no, yeah, I'm not on any porn sites yet. I'm on
Talk,
Instagram
talk.
at you never know, man. You gotta pay the bills, right? But no, I'm on Instagram, Coach Ryan Dosa. I'm on YouTube, Dosa Training Systems. Like I said, David Martin Ryan Dosa podcasts. I'll be pumping out more content there. And yeah, appreciate you for having me on. It was very insightful. I learned a lot, sort of helped me to organize my brain with all this bullshit. But yeah, man.
Yeah, and I'll do the housekeeping things. Guys, I appreciate you all for checking out episode 62. Please go follow Ryan. I'll get the links in the description, whether we're on YouTube or Spotify. Leave me a positive review. Tell me exactly how much you loved Ryan's curly hair in the review section on Spotify and Apple. Give us 5 stars. Hit us both with subscriptions on our YouTubes. What else do we do on these social media things? Leave comments, like, share it with your friends, and we'll catch you in
OnlyFans.
the OnlyFans. Follow the OnlyFans. $6.99 a month. Nice. It's all I could really ask. But yeah, guys, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in the next one.